Football ignites my soul. It's what makes me go. This is what I do. I'm not here to play. I'm here to build a program.
Another week in the heat and another W for the Sun Devils. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the house here on houseofsparky.com. He's Austin Burnett. I'm Scotty Gange. And episode 3 here in our newly minted studios. Austin, crazy weekend for NCAA football, Pac-12 football especially, but we got to talk some Sun Devils.
Yeah, Arizona State upsetting number 15 Michigan State. And speaking of that game, let's get to the highlights. We got Sparky versus Sparty in the desert. Now we kick things off with Manny Wilkins finding his roommate N'Keal Harry over the middle. Now we have Brian Lewerke dropping back to pass, getting pressured. The ball is tip drilled, tipped again, and it is picked off by Desmond Talatasi. ASU gets a huge stop inside the red zone as Michigan State was driving. Score is 3-0 Michigan State. Now Brian Lewerke in business, driving down the field, throws the ball up to Cody White for a big-time score for the Spartans, 13-3 in favor of Sparty. Now Manny Wilkins and company looking to keep their drive alive, looks down the field, and he does find his intended target, Ryan Newsom, for a big-time gain inside the red zone. Sets up a field goal for Brendan Reese. Score is now 13-6 in favor of the Spartans. Now we can't get enough of N'Keal Harry, and we're going to get more of him right here as Manny Wilkins drops back to pass, and he does find Mr. N'Keal Harry inside the red zone for a touchdown. Score is knotted up at 13 apiece. All right, now we're going to start talking about the man of the hour, sophomore kicker Brandon Reese. The hold is down, the kick is up, and it is good. Arizona State upsets number 15 Michigan State 16-13. Mr. Reese, congratulations, young man. Well, with such a big game coming up, we didn't bring in one, but we brought in 2 analysts to talk about this upcoming matchup against San Diego State. Blaine, I'm going to start out with you. This defense, they've been arguably one of the best defenses they've had over the past couple of years. What do they need to improve on heading into San Diego State?
I mean, you're exactly right. The defense has been a major talking point for Arizona State, and Danny Gonzalez has done a very effective job with covering the different assignments and stuff. To my point, though, the secondary has always been an issue for Arizona State. So going up against San Diego, they're going to have to improve on their assignments and everything. Chase Lucas has been phenomenal at cornerback. He wasn't originally supposed to even be a cornerback. A little fun tidbit for you, but you know, the secondary has really shown what they can do, and I think with the true freshman Ashari Crosswell getting into the mix as well, they can really improve against San Diego State.
All right, now Jordan, I'm going to head it back over to you. This running game, or the lack thereof, hasn't been strong over the past couple of weeks. They only had 44 yards total as a team against Michigan State. What do they need to improve on heading into the Aztec game?
Well, I mean, last week against Michigan State, Benjamin only had 27 yards on 13 carries, and that's just not good enough for this offense. I think we can all sit here at this desk and agree that Manny Wilkins is not an elite level passer at this college level, and he threw the ball 40 times last week against Michigan State. If they can run the ball against San Diego State, we saw what Benjamin can do, and even Isaiah Floyd, who got the ball 3 times last week for only 3 yards, we've seen what these guys can do with the rock in their hands, and if they get some yardage, they get some good blocking, it's going to be a long week for San Diego State.
Yeah, absolutely. And Blaine, back over to you. This receiving core, extremely have a lot of depth with N'Keal Harry, Kyle Williams, Ryan Newsom. They've been doing a lot of stuff well. but what could they be doing better?
I don't really think they have anything to improve on, really, because they've been doing everything very well. N'Keal Harry has done exactly what people projected him to do, be a top star receiver and earn that title of being in the first round of the NFL draft come that time, and he's really been improving. Kyle Williams, he's one that stepped up big against Michigan State, getting over 100 yards receiving. And Jordan, you mentioned that Manny Wilkins might not be the best passer, but with this receiving core, you can pass to these receivers and they can extend the play for you. Getting those extra yards off of contact, that's something that N'Keal Harry excels in, and they can do that against the Aztecs, who may not be in the best division of football, but they do have a very rough defense, and this receiving core just has to lock down and get ready to go to action.
Yeah, and Blaine, you mentioned that defense is more specifically the defensive line, Jordan. This defensive line is they have a lot of depth as well. But what are some more things that the defense could be doing to improve heading in to the San Diego State game?
Well, I don't know if there's a whole lot they can improve on. Blaine kind of mentioned it was the secondary, but when you look at this team, they've given up 65 yards in rushing in the past 2 games. This was a team that averaged only nearly 200 yards per game, giving up yards on the ground last year. And you have to give a whole lot of credit to Danny Gonzalez when you talk about that. Herm said in the press conference this week that San Diego State is like Michigan State. They're going to want to run the ball. And if they play defense the way they have the past 2 weeks, like I said, San Diego State is going to be it's going to be a close game, I think. But ASU, if they can keep what they've been doing, it's going to be a huge win for the Devils.
Well, thanks, Blaine and Jordan. We're going to send it back over to Scotty for the final drives of the game.
Okay. We all know that Brandon Ruiz is a hashtag hometown hero and walked it off with a field goal. The Devils are in the top 25, the Herm haters are fading away, and the so-called train is filling up fast. But what would you say if I told you before Saturday's game that the Sun Devils would be down by 10 in the 4th? Probably something along the lines of, this might have been too big of a test for this young Sun Devil team, or I just don't think Herm's quite ready yet. Turn the clock back to a struggling offensive unit that just could not string quality plays together, down 2 scores. But as we all know today, the Devils were hungry, and they didn't give up. A field goal followed by a few defensive stops set up the perfect moment to tie the game. N'Keal Harry did N'Keal Harry things, leaping over Michigan State's Justin Lane. Boom, 13 up. The next 8 minutes felt like an eternity, but the Gonzo defense stood tall, making the right plays when they needed to be made. And Wilkins and company took over the 4 minutes and 55 seconds remaining. The Spartans wasted their timeouts, and Edwards had no doubt in his mind. Torched that clock. And I think we all know how that turned out. So that Brandon Ruiz field goal was definitely a pro Saturday night. And now we're going to go break things down for our pros and cons. So Austin, I'm going to give you the pros. You can't use the Brandon Ruiz field goal. I already used it. But I'm going to start with a con. So the first one for me is the offense Saturday night. I just think that they struggled immensely. Manny Wilkins was missing throws, coming off of 49 points to score just no points in the first half and 3 points up until the first 3 quarters. The offense really was scary for the first 3 quarters. They were able to bounce back, but definitely a con throughout the entirety of that game.
Yeah, definitely something they do need to work on. But I'm going to go with a pro for the defense. Very solid for them over the past 2 weeks. Only allowing 2 rushing yards. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So that's my pro for the defense.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue going with the offense here. The running game especially. Benjamin, he had 27 yards on 13 carries, 27 in the first half, 44 total yards for the entire team. So I think when Benjamin can't get things rocking and rolling, then it's really going to slow down the offense, which it definitely showed.
Yeah, and my pro is going to be making plays when they need to. Talking about that play to N'Keal Harry for the touchdown, and also, the Brandon Reese kick to win the game.
Yeah, you used it. I said not to, but you did use it.
I mentioned it a little bit.
But I'm going to go for a con here. It's a possibility of a hangover in San Diego. Last year, the Sun Devils lost 30-20 in Tempe. Of course, it was the Rashad Penny show. He returned a kick, had a long run. But I do think that the Sun Devils being in the top 25, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to have a hangover and drop a game that they should win in San Diego.
Yeah, my final pro is going to be the Inferno. I'm talking about the 942 crew. Herm mentioned it in his Monday press conference. He gave very big praise to the 942 crew and the Inferno. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this segment of Pros and Cons. We're going to toss it over to Julian for Around the Pac-12.
Thanks, guys, and we're going to dash through some games real quick. Lots of scores, lots of stats, so I'll do my best to pick wisely. But that just makes it harder to choose from a great showing of college football. We'll start with number 23, Oregon, who enforcing their will over the Portland State Vikings. The Ducks were victorious big time, 62-14. Impeccable passing game by Oregon's Justin Herbert, who threw for 250 yards and notched 4 touchdowns. Next up, we've got the Colorado Buffaloes battling it out in Nebraska. Colorado's QB Steven Montez performed well, managing to get 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, thanks to the Colorado receivers Jay McIntyre and Laviska Shenault Jr. A nail-biting game, but the Buffs won 33-28 and are now 2-0. All right, to finish this up, we're heading to California, where number 10 ranked Stanford was victorious over 17th ranked USC. With the final score being 17-3, it's a rough start for the post-Sam Darnold era. But Bryce Love had a great game for the Cardinal, rushing for 136 yards like it was nobody's business and converted on a touchdown. What a game, and what a week. Unfortunately, that's all the time we've got, but we will see you next week for another segment of Around the Pac-12. I'll send it back to you guys at the desk.
Every week at House of Sparky, we feature an exciting moment from our partners at Blaze Radio for the Blaze Radio Call of the Game. A tense moment for many fans, but Matt Lively exuberantly called Brandon Reese's 28-yard game-winning field goal Saturday night. Hear the play that won the game with the Blaze Radio Call of the Game.
Can the Sun Devils knock off number 15 Michigan State? The kick is up. The kick is good. Down goes Sparta. The Sun Devils have knocked off Michigan State tonight. The locomotive is leaving the station. The Herm train has arrived in Tempe.
It's hard to be the new kid in school. It's even harder when you move to a new state, where everything is different and just a little uncomfortable. For freshman linebacker Merlin Robertson, that is just the tip of the iceberg. The freshman has been rotating with the linebacker #1 unit ever since he stepped foot in Tempe. Robertson started game 1 for the Sun Devils and recorded 2 tackles. A good and predictable start for a young talent. But in what could be one of the Sun Devils' toughest tests of the season, Robertson came for smoke. He recorded 9 total tackles, 7 of those in the second half, 1.5 sacks, a forced fumble, and a timely pass breakup. He propelled the young Arizona State defense, being a key component to their bend but don't break attitude. For his efforts, Robertson was named the Walter Camp National Defensive Player of the Week, the first time for a Sun Devil defenseman ever. The Devils are a top 25 team, and the freshman's second half performance is a big part of that. And that's why Merlin Robertson is our feel-good story of the week. Swinging it around the Pac-12 for our top plays of the week. First one right there, that's Colby Parkinson of the Stanford Cardinal in the corner of the end zone, giving the Cardinal a 14-point lead. Look at that foot, just a millimeter in. Stanford, 17-3 win over USC, hands the Trojans their first loss of 2018.
Yeah, now we're going to go to Utah versus Northern Illinois. Sophomore quarterback Marcus Childers throws a pick 6 to Chase Hansen. Utah wins by a final score of 17-6. Look at that, he's taking it all the way to the house.
That's what you call a dagger right there, Austin. But here's a better one for you. Steven Montez, 40-yard pass to Laviska Shenault. Comes down with it. Gets the win for the Buffaloes at Nebraska. 33-28 final score. Laviska Shenault. Good enough for our Pac-12 play of the week's 33-28 Buffaloes. Well, the Sun Devils not the only team in the Pac-12 to get a huge major out-of-conference win. We saw right there Colorado over Nebraska. Laviska Shenault, the play of the week. I also have to say the name of the week, Laviska. I just love that.
Hard to pronounce, fun to say, and fun to watch. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of The House. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, check out all of our content on housesparky.com. For Scotty Gange, I'm Austin Burnett. We'll see you next time.